Welcome to ACF Chefs Forum. We appreciate all of you tuning in today for this webinar on beef cut and cookery exploration sponsored by the Beef Checkoff. Our presenters will highlight value-added beef cuts, current flavor trends in beef dishes, and discuss cost-effective ways to feature beef on your menus. ACF is excited to have experts here with information just for you, the leaders of the food service industry. ACF is excited. Before we begin, as a note, we will be answering as many questions as possible after the presentation. Please use the chat function to collaborate with other viewers and use the Q&A function anytime during the presentation if you have any questions about today's speakers. Let's get the discussion going to the chat by telling us where you're tuning in from today. I'm Chris Tanner, American Culinary Federation's Executive Director. Let's meet today's presenters. Our first guest is Paul Schutt. Paul Schutt is the Executive Chef Outreach and Education for National Cattlemen's Beef Association. As a multifaceted executive chef with over 35 years of restaurant experience, Chef Paul believes that developing strong relationships is the foundation for creating a positive learning environment. Paul's aim is to increase beef knowledge by providing resources and information that leads to more informed consumers, cattle producers, dietitians, and fellow chefs. Chef Paul has served as the executive chef trainer for job readiness program serving at-risk individuals, public school districts, and a university hospitality program in Denver. He has extensive experience running a family-run barbecue restaurant, multi-unit culinary training for several quick casual concepts, high-volume catering, fine dining, and personal chef services. We will also hear from Samantha Augustine. Samantha is the Director of Marketing for Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative. NEBPI is a nonprofit organization that works on behalf of beef farmers and ranchers through the Beef Checkoff to promote and educate about beef. NEBPI provides beef research, materials, and resources with the goal of increasing the demand of beef. Samantha has been in her role with NEBPI since June 2021 after attending the Ohio State University, where she majored in agricultural communications and meat science, providing her with a wide background in the beef industry. Samantha's background in the beef industry started on her family's beef cattle farm in north central Ohio, though she currently resides in western Pennsylvania. Take it away.
All righty, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here today. I'm going to give a quick overview presentation on all of the things related to the Beef Checkoff, the value we bring to you all, and the resources and materials that are currently available for your benefit. So with that, I'll get us kicked off with a brief overview of what is the Beef Checkoff program. And it was established as part of the 1985 Farm Bill, and it assesses $1 per head on the sale of live, domestic, imported cattle, in addition to a comparable assessment on imported beef and beef products. And it states may retain up to 50 cents, and then another 50 cents of that dollar goes to the Cattlemen's Beef Promotion and Research Board, where it is used for promotion research on beef's behalf. And all of the things are subject to USDA approval, with the goal in mind to increase beef demand. A look at the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative overview. We are a 12-state region looking down from Maine into Virginia. Essentially, we just help extend that nationally developed beef checkoff messaging and content into the heavily populated Northeast region of the country that already has a minimal state beef council presence to cover the population, working with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to share out that messaging content resource and research into those states that have a high dense of consumers. Unique attributes about the Northeast region: we're home to 74 million consumers. That's a quarter of the country's population, with those 4 top metro cities. Only 3% of those checkoff dollars we talked about earlier are collected within those regions, leaving limited amounts of dollars used for those promotions. And there are 6 states that don't have a beef council presence within our region, and so we step in and act as the acting role for a regional state beef council to help educate consumers about the beef industry and our culinary professionals, food service folks, retail, to really make sure that beef is staying top of mind of consumers. Again, some more regional attributes, really focusing on the Northeast region. We do a research yearly to conduct the state of the Northeast consumer, what things are top of mind for them when it comes to protein and feeding their families. These consumers are less likely to consider production-related attributes when making these decisions, and availability and access to recipe ideas, cooking methods, specifically those that are healthy and quick and easy, might tempt them to purchase and consume beef more. And beef comes from local beef farms, ranchers, and nutritional materials, and relevant safety information are all things they keep in mind when considering proteins. And the top three protein considering factors really come down to taste, value, and healthiness the most within the Northeast region. When we compare that to the whole U.S., a lot of that, the whole U.S. finds that health and cost are more of a concern versus the considerations of the Northeast region. Moving in to briefly highlight some educational resources and materials we already offer that you guys can access at any point in time to better help you understand and educate about the beef industry and use these resources to the best of your ability. Of course, you can visit Beef is What's for Dinner as well as northeastbeef.org to provide you with a weekly wholesale data that breaks down the unique prices of cuts as well as cut charts based out on retail cuts and food service cuts and yield data, really looking at the trendy cuts, what consumers are heavying up on as we get into different seasons of life. Then moving into some infographics, again, highlighting that beef cut charts, again, decoding the label, understanding what the difference between grain finished and grass finished beef are, certified organic, naturally raised, really are allowing those consumers to be well educated about labeling terms they might come across to when it comes to beef, as well as resources regarding how beef is raised, what takes it from the farm to their plate, and all of the steps and the processes in between those stages of life. And then, of course, we have the Beef Assets library that has marketing assets widely available. Wrangler is Beef is What's for Dinner's general asset manager, which is used to store digital content, including high-resolution photography and videos, including raw cuts, cooked cuts, the recipe photography, those cut charts and infographics I shared about previously, as well as videos in different segment specific portals. So it can be a great asset to utilize content that we've already created to really help showcase the beef industry from multiple different sectors. Another great asset is the Beef University. This is a free and interactive training portal that gives retail professionals and food service professionals access to resources that can help market beef, further understand the beef, and course models review the topics of grades, marbling, cuts, preparation, nutritional information, and of course back to that raising beef and about all of the stages of life. The Beef API creates an open architecture for sharing content and data that can be dynamically posted and updated in multiple web locations, really linking all of the recipes and websites that are already created on Beef is What's for Dinner to other websites to make them more universal. And again, this is a quick sign up thing to keep it all in one place and to really have things that we've already developed be displayed easily. And the Beef News Now e-newsletter, we have the Beef is What's for Dinner national e-newsletter that comes out, and then we have our quarterly NABPI Northeast Region e-newsletter that comes out quarterly. These really focus on nutritional webinar invitation, industry issues, weekly wholesale price updates, new research, anything that's relevant to your sectors can really be found within these e-newsletters for your comfort, and availability. And with that note, here is our contact information for both me and Paul, who you'll hear from in just a quick second. So feel free to reach out at any point in time with questions you all have. We're always here to be a resource and an asset to you all, and really want to help increase beef demand, as we mentioned. And with that, I will turn things over to Paul.
Thank you, Samantha. Good afternoon, everybody. As Samantha mentioned, I'm in Denver, Colorado. I'm at National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I'm in our culinary center. Chef Dagan is back here behind me. He's doing some prep, so you might hear a little bit of knocking and a little bit of sizzling going on. But with that, I think that we're ready to get started. All right. National Cattlemen's Beef Association, our vision is to be the trusted leader and definitive voice of the U.S. cattle and beef industry. Our mission is to serve the cattle and beef industry by improving the business climate, growing beef demand, and increasing the world's access to U.S. beef. Today, we're going to be talking about menu opportunities with undervalued beef cuts. We're going to discover a few undervalued beef cuts. There's going to be some talk about menu inspiration and some cost savings that we'll be able to add to the plate without eliminating the protein power of beef. We'll explore some fresh menu concepts that highlight the versatility of value cuts and the latest flavor and menu trends. We're going to start today with a little outline on beef sustainability, some consumer insights, and some information on lean beef. Beef farmers and ranchers care deeply for the environment, and they want to pass their land on to future generations. Ranchers and farmers are stewards of the natural resources, and they're committed to constantly improving the way they manage their natural resources. The land the cattle graze on protects the habitats of hundreds of animals and allows people to enjoy the outdoors by biking, hiking, camping, and more. Cattle are ruminants, which means that they have unique stomachs that can upcycle plants that humans can't and turn them into high-quality, delicious protein. When cattle graze on land, their manure enriches the soil, which enables healthy plants to grow. The nutrient cycle allows for carbon sequestration. We're going to start here with beef for special occasions. As you can see by this chart, beef constantly ranks the highest as the preferred protein choice for social gatherings and special occasions. You can see beef at the top of the chart, followed by chicken, and down at the bottom of the graph, we have plant-based proteins as well as pork. 90% of consumers express a positive to neutral sentiment about beef as a protein. As chefs and culinary professionals, it's our job to create enticing menu choices that drive sales, and using value cuts to do so can bring more money to the bottom line. No one ever said, let's celebrate a special occasion with a boneless chicken breast. This graph here is beef performance in food service. You can see here that beef sales in food service are expected to grow through 2027. In recent surveys, 80% of consumers responded they will maintain or increase their consumption of beef. Consumers continue to rank beef as a top source of protein with superior taste and nutritious value. Beef tenderness has been identified as the primary determinant of eating satisfaction among U.S. beef consumers. In the early 1990s, beef was deemed either too tough or too fat, and beef demand was decreasing. 1 in 4 steaks at that time just didn't eat right. The beef industry got together and created the National Beef Tenderness Survey, and despite the challenges that the beef industry has faced over the last 30 years, including drought, herd liquidation, fluctuating supply, and input costs, the quality of beef has seen great improvements. With the improvement in beef tenderness, the industry has the opportunities to focus on beef palatability, flavor, and increased product consistency. Pre-harvest factors affecting the tenderness of beef include are inherent to the animal's genotype, sex, age, and temperament. Other pre-harvest factors include the diet of the cattle, feeding schedule, growth enhancement, cattle handling, and overall cattle health. Post-harvest factors including individual muscle cuts, USDA grading, chilling period, chilling temp, and length of aging are post-harvest tenderness factors. A little bit on some nutrition here on beef. Lean beef is considered a complete protein. A 3-ounce serving of lean beef provides 10 essential nutrients, 170 calories, less than 10 grams of total fat, and less than 95 milligrams of cholesterol. A 3-ounce serving of cooked beef contains approximately 25 grams of protein, roughly 50% of your daily value. All right, let's get into the cuts. We've got some value or opportunity cuts that we're going to be highlighting today. I've got some information here on the ball tip, the tri-tip, and the eye around. Let's start with the sirloin primal. The sirloin primal is first separated into the top sirloin butt and the bottom sirloin butt. The top sirloin, you have steaks that are great for grilling. And on the bottom sirloin, we're going to find the tri-tip and the ball tip that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So the ball tip, also known as the ball tip roast, the petite sirloin roast, or the sirloin roast. Located at the posterior end of the sirloin tip. It's a fine-grained muscle. It's a cut consisting of 3 fine-grained muscles with medium to mild marbling. If you look closely at the picture here on the right-hand side and also on the middle picture, you can kind of see some of the seams. There's a little bit of silver skin in there. So with some basic knife skills, you can seam out those individual muscles and clean them up. And you will see that you have 3 beautiful little roasts that are fantastic sirloin roasts. Traditionally, the ball tip was tied and used as a roast or cut into steaks straight across. And you can see here in the picture here on the left-hand side, you'll see those sirloin steaks. And that's generally what you'll see in the grocery store. It's perfectly all right to cut those into sirloin steaks like that. However, you're going to have a little bit of chewiness with some of that connective tissue. If you take a little bit of time and clean those up, you've got a fantastic eating piece of meat. So the sirloin roast is an amazing cut to be used for as a roast for salads, for sandwiches, for grilled steaks, for petite steaks, for minute steaks. It's also an excellent choice for stir fries, pastas, and for finishing salads. Just this last week, on the wholesale prices, which can be found on our Beef is What's for Dinner website, the wholesale price of the ball tip choice was about $3.75 a pound. So once again, a really great eating piece of beef, tremendous value, and lots of amazing versatility.
Hey, Chef, I do have a question from the crowd here. You're talking about through the different cuts, and obviously all have different size muscles. What would you say for these different cuts might be the ideal service size for some of these?
Well, if you break down the ball tip is generally between 3 and 5 pounds. It really depends. Once you get that broken out into roasts, petite roasts or petite fillets, they'll be about 4 to 5 ounces. We recommend nutritionally about a 4-ounce serving of beef.
Awesome. Thank you, Chef.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're still going to stay in the sirloin primal. We're going to go to the tri-tip. The tri-tip is one of my favorite cuts, to be honest with you. It's got a lot of versatility. Very popular on the West Coast, especially California. Often referred to as the Newport roast, the Santa Maria roast, and the triangle roast. A lot of you folks might be familiar with the Santa Maria style barbecue, where the tri-tip is grilled whole over an open fire. The name is derived from the shape. You can see on the right-hand side here of this image, we've got a nice triangle shape of the roast. It comes from the lower back on the part of the sirloin. It's a really well marbled piece of meat. And when you're carving it as a whole roast, care needs to be taken. You can see here in this one image, the grain will tend to kind of change directions. So when you're carving it as a roast, you really want to be cognizant of the fact that you're cutting against the grain. This particular roast, the tri-tip, is not a great cut for steaks. I've been seeing it in some large grocery stores and some warehouse stores where the butchers are cutting it into steaks, and that's just not the best way to eat the tri-tip. So traditionally, the tri-tip was thrown into the grinder as part of the ground beef program. In the 30s, butchers in California started realizing what a tender, amazing, flavorful cut it was. They discovered that it roasts really quickly. The average weight is about 3 to 5 pounds. You can roast it. That image that I showed you earlier, the roast that it had the fat cap removed, but you can roast it with the fat cap on. It does have a little bit of silver skin underneath that cap and around the sides, so a little bit of care needs to be put into trimming it up. Being only a 3 to 5 pound roast and being fairly well marbled, it roasts very quickly. At times, the tri-tip is referred to as the poor man's brisket. It delivers excellent flavor, a very similar eating experience to brisket, and obviously it's going to cook in a lot less time. It's not going to require a lot of the babysitting and the 6 to 8 hours on the smoker that a brisket traditionally will take. We prefer to, and this is my personal preference, and I think a lot of folks will tell you as well, that the tri-tip eats better when it's closer to a medium rare to medium type of temperature. It's not a great eating roast when it's rare. The tri-tip is perfect for, we can see smoked sandwiches, for carved roast. It's an excellent roast for carving stations. We use this cut quite a bit for carving stations. It's really a crowd pleaser. Just recently, the wholesale price came in at about $4 a pound. Now, once again, those are wholesale prices for choice. Your pricing may vary a little bit depending on your region, and some availability depending on your region. Okay, we're going to move into the round now. So we are going to talk about the eye around. So it's a lean, boneless roast. It can be perceived as being tough if it's not prepared properly. Care needs to be taken to make sure this roast is nice and tender. The aging on this, you really want to make sure that you age it for at least 21 days. Ideally, wet aging up to 40 days is is really going to help tenderize it a little bit. Using injections with either beef stock or tallow, soy sauce, that certainly will help tenderize this roast as well. You can marinate it, slow roast it at 250 degrees and stud it with some garlic and bring it up nice and slow. It really performs well with a slow roasting, a nice slow smoke. Sous vide really works well, and for steaks. So once again, it's great for slow roasting, especially in a combi oven. If you could do the slow roast, slow smoking, sous vide. Steaks, if you're going to do steaks with the eye around, you want to cut it thin and you want to marinate it. 1/2-inch steaks or thicker really is not a great eating experience. Generally, the eye around is used for cube steaks. That's where you're going to see it primarily in the grocery store. But the eye around really performs well for stir fries, for beef jerky, for traditional Milanese, and for Swiss style steaks. So we're talking about sauerbraten or rouladen. Once again, if you take the time to cut it and prepare it properly, this is an excellent roast for a value style carving station, and especially not necessarily for center of the plate on a carving station, but more for finger sandwiches or roasting and slicing thin for roast beef sandwiches, cold roast beef sandwiches. As well, the eye around could also be ground for Texas style smoked beef sausage if you add with the addition of a little bit of fat, some of your beef trimmings from other cuts. Right, we're going to switch gears here a little bit, go into trending concepts for beef cuts. So we're thinking beyond the beef brisket. As I mentioned earlier, all three of these cuts actually work really well as an alternative for the beef brisket. The beef brisket has gotten to be a little bit expensive based upon the demand. Everybody wants to smoke their brisket, but as I mentioned earlier, the tri-tip is an amazing alternative, and the ball tip smokes up really well. We've had some great success with that one for barbecued beef sandwiches, for sliced sandwiches, and the eye of round also smokes up really well. We smoke it on our smoker, and then we'll slice it thin for sandwiches. We talk about regional barbecue. So that doesn't always necessarily mean using a traditional smoker, a kettle smoker, or a stick burner, or a pellet smoker that we're familiar with. Barbecue can include cooking over fire pits and grills using hardwoods or using hardwood charcoals. If you think of beef satay, Korean barbecue, barbacoa, and Argentinian parrilla, these are all international variations on the barbecue that impart great flavor to these value cuts if they're handled properly and if they're marinated. 76% of consumers say that they love trying new flavors. So what we see now, a lot of trends that we're starting to see now in some of the steakhouses is we're starting to see chefs tasting boards. Younger folks want to have an experience, a social experience where they can taste different cuts. So the chef's tasting boards have a variety of different cuts, maybe even a variety of different breeds of animals, Wagyu beef, choice, CAB, whatever the case may be. And then those boards are served with a variety of sides, accoutrements, dips, and sauces. So we're seeing a lot more of this type of interactive type of dining. Once again, we think about Korean barbecue, where everything is brought out to you, and as a social event, everybody gets to kind of cook up how they like to eat their beef. Another big trend that we're seeing right now, we've got the chef's beef boards, but we're seeing a resurgence of beef tallow. Here at the Culinary Center, we use a lot of beef tallow. We use that for finishing beef. We use it for all of our pan searing. It's got a nice high smoke point. It imparts an amazing flavor. And we're seeing a lot of chefs now in the area enriching their sauces with beef tallow. So they may be making a beef tallow aioli or beef tallow hollandaise, a tallow rosemary butter to be served with the bread service, and then added to sauces or demi sauces to fortify the sauce. You could also infuse the tallow with herbs and roasted garlic when you're rendering your tallow, to use that for preparing tamales or to just enhance the flavor of roasted beef. Once again, as well, we've also seen this trend. You see this picture here on this slide. We've got the tallow candle. We've done this quite a few times here at our Culinary Center. So we've got the tallow, and we put some chopped garlic and some rosemary in there, and a wick that we buy from our local craft store. And as that tallow melts, we've got this beautiful pool of tallow that we can dip our bread in, or you can dip your grilled meat in. All right. So some menu trends that we're talking about as well, things that are going to take our value cuts to the next level. Sweet and spicy. We're all familiar with the hot honey trend going on right now. So we've got these amazing ideas with the hot honey. We can do a hot maple syrup. We can do we've seen the chili crunches. You can add sweet elements to the chili crunch. And so we're looking about, folks want bold and spicy flavors. We think about the big trend with the birria right now, the birria tacos. They're popping up everywhere. That's a very complex flavor, a complex preparation, but those are great flavors that are really catching on right now. We think about Korean or international flavors. So once again, we talk about Korean food. We have bulgogi or bibimbap. So some of those hot, spicy Korean flavors, North African flavors using nutmeg and ginger, cumin and chilies as either a sauce component or as a marinade or as a spice rub. And then once again, Polynesian flavors, another realm here in the world where we can use coconut milk, ginger, lime, vanilla, tamarind. All of these international bold flavors are what guests are kind of craving these days when they take the time to go out to eat. Another opportunity to explore our options with our value cuts is, we talked about the chef's steak boards, but we could also do slider boards or in-house charcuterie using some of these value cuts. So when we do a slider board, we could do a variety of breads like brioche or pretzel buns. We could do smoked, roasted, charred, do a variety of aiolis or pickles. Could be set up as their pre-built sliders or a build your own slider board type of thing. We talk also about with menuing some of these value cuts, and we're seeing this at some of the higher end steakhouses, is they're taking some of these value cuts like the tri-tip, and they're using terms like locally sourced or grass-fed. Chefs are finding out that a lot of local producers are raising and harvesting amazing tasting beef. And oftentimes they will have a large amount of some of these value cuts either in their freezer or in a position where they don't know how to get rid of them. So we've worked with a couple of ranchers in the area to get some of these value cuts in front of us and to kind of start highlighting some of this. So, some of those terms that you want to use or when you're menuing this type of beef is locally sourced, grass-fed, wholesome. Quality matters. So we're talking about boutique ranches, farms, breeds, wholesome and natural. Wow, that went really fast. Does anybody have any questions, Chris? Do we have any questions out there?
We've got a couple questions. One's a simple one.
Okay.
So some of the posters and charts that you were showing earlier are where can some people find some of those?
You can download the PDF from our website, from the Northeast Beef Initiative website, or from the Beef It's What's for Dinner website. So we've got the simple PDF, or you can go to the Beef It's What's for Dinner store and order those posters, a larger poster from there.
Fantastic. And another interesting question here. So this is a little bit more involved. So I said, with the influx of over so many people in the world, how is the beef industry keeping up, since there's quite an influx in demand? Keeping quality integrity is essential for so many people in restaurants. It seems like there's another challenge for survival of the industry with the cattle and the cattle industry in general.
That's a really good question. And, that's, I'm the chef. But we do, if you go to our website, we have a lot of, as Samantha had mentioned, she might be able to help us out with this one as well. There's a lot of amazing information on the Beef It's What's for Dinner website about sustainability, cattle production, and feeding the world with US beef. Samantha, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Paul, I can kind of help you out a little more. No worries. That's a great question, and it's certainly something that we're seeing on this end of spectrum and continuing to monitor. A lot of what we do is keep grasp on many different things to see what's happening and what things are going to do. We do research 5 years out in advance to kind of see what consumer trends are going to do, what demand is looking like, where are we going to be at as an industry? And those are all things that we can kind of keep and monitor. A lot of what we're seeing right now, we talked about imports when I talked about the beef checkoff. A lot of what we're doing as an industry is importing product. Our greatest need is lean beef, as actually one of the things that we don't produce enough as a region. We produce a lot of good quality beef, and we have to outsource lean trim. And so we import a lot of that product. But like I said, those are things that we can kind of continue to monitor. Certainly environmental concerns, droughts, those things play a role into beef production. And Mother Nature doesn't always agree with what we as an industry set out and strive to do. But note that we are continuing to combat that issue, continuing to have those conversations and kind of prepare to be able to grow still within those kind of time crunches. And as Paul mentioned, we certainly have some research and resources on our website that can kind of really high level go into that information and paint the picture a little better.
Wonderful. Yeah, personally, I eat a lot of lean ground beef, and I eat a lot of eye round. So, Chef, you gave some great ideas with the eye round as well. I happen to be a strongman competitor, so I probably eat about 2.5 pounds of protein, a lot of beef in a day. So, some great ideas. But I have noticed that, Samantha, with the lean ground beef as well. There's not as much of it available when I go to the different stores, and it's astronomically higher in price, and it makes sense because it's imported as well. So, interesting.
Yes,
Yeah, the
sadly.
eye around is actually really versatile, Chris. I mean, it kind of gets a little bit of a hard knock because of the nature of the muscle, but it when handled properly, like I said, cooking in the combi or doing the sous vide, taking care of it, that's where we elevate the craft, right? So that's what we do as chefs. We elevate the craft.
So I will say more often than not, I'm actually sous videing my eye round. So I'll put it into a cryovac, 131 degrees for 24 hours. I can kind of just leave it for my own personal consumption, and my kids love it as well. And you don't even know that, it is a tough cut of meat, but cooked in that way, it's tender as anything else. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Dagan here he's worked at a couple of hotels, and like I had mentioned, he's our other chef here, Dagan is. He would use this on his carving stations at his hotels for more of that value type of carving station kind of cut, staying away from some of those middle meats and offering an affordable choice.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do from a retail standpoint. It's $4.99 a pound for eye round. At wholesale, it's going to be astronomically lower than that. And to be able to put that as a carving station, cooked in the right way, I mean, it's definitely a great cost to restaurateurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay, I got another question that just came in. So with the world's increase in appetite for beef, are there shortcuts being taken? Anything unfortunate that we might not know about that we should keep our eyes out for?
I think Samantha might be able to speak to that a little bit better than I. Samantha, do you have any feedback on that one?
Yeah, of course. I necessarily don't think that there's any shortcuts being taken or things to look out for. We anticipate these things as they're coming in. We know how many live cattle we have in the world before you ever see them in your market. And so those are things that we certainly combat. The goal of these educational sessions and webinars that we host amongst, retail or food service or, nutrition crowds, it's truly about better educating about beef as a whole. We talked a lot about underutilized cuts today, just generally because they can be cheaper, but you're not getting rid of that flavor and that great taste. There's still ways to really elevate that eating experience and keep consumers coming back of it. It's no longer just the T-bone steak at the grocery store that is so familiar to everybody and everyone can pick it out. There's so many different other types of steaks that could come at a cheaper price, come at different subprimals of the beef product, but are still never giving up that flavor and that taste. And so education-wise, we're moving, leaps and bounds ahead to continue to combat that and make beef go further when it comes to those food service and retail sectors of how we can utilize that product and how we can, feed more people with one animal versus others. As an industry, we've come a long ways. Carcasses are less fatty, as we talked about previously. Back in the 90s, there was a lot of fat on them. That's wasted product that had to be trimmed off. There's just more protein dense marbling in there than there is just fat that would have to be shaved off. So that research and those continuing education things are things that will help combat that and keep us moving forward as an industry.
That's fantastic news. Chef Samantha, do you have any closing thoughts you want to share with the group?
And I don't think we have anything else. I'll be happy if you guys have any questions, follow-up things, or you are looking for a certain resource or material, don't hesitate to reach out. We can always help you. That's mainly what we're here to do is help you all out on your guys' end of things, whether that is providing materials, answering questions, or just being your listening boards as you go through things. We're more than happy to always do that. So don't hesitate to reach out. Don't be a stranger, and we're all working together. And so if there's anything you all need, just stay in touch.
Yeah, Chef, certainly if there's anything that you need from the beef checkoffs, reach out to us here at the ACF. We'll pass along the information, or you can reach out directly yourselves as well. Chef and Samantha, thank you so much for the great presentation. And I learned quite a few things here, and I know our members did as well. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Absolutely. So thank you. So a huge virtual round of applause for both Chef Paul and Samantha, and of course, Beef Checkoff for a very informative presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to share your important insights on beef cuts and cookery. It's really some great information, so thank you. Please be on the lookout for the survey you'll receive in the next day or so, which you'll need to complete to earn your continuing education hours. We hope you'll join us for the next webinar on May 29th as ACF Chef Greg Boggs closes out our May trend presenting on elevating your barbecue with global flavors. We also look forward to seeing all of you at the ACF National Convention in Phoenix, July 14th through 17th. It's going to be the can't miss culinary education event of the year for sure. To learn more about the upcoming webinars and the ACF National Convention, visit acfchefs.org and click on the events tab. On behalf of the ACF National Office, thank you again to our presenters and sponsor for bringing us this opportunity, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.